I'm going to walk you through the process I would use for creating your first project to sort of give you an idea. Content's going to be up to you, but this basic structure, you'll change some of the settings and colors and stuff, but the basic structure you're going to want to follow. So the first thing that I do is I will create a new folder, and this is going to be HTML underscore project. I do all of my file and folder names with no spaces, which is absolutely required for this project. You will be judged on how you will be graded on how you name and set up your file project. So it should be named HTML underscore project for the file folder. Then inside each project, we want to create a new file, and my default file is index.html. This will be the one that opens by default. And you're going to use an external style sheet. So I will put in my new file here, and I will call it styles.css. And when I'm working in this sort of environment, I like to have my style sheet up next to my HTML so I can see them at the same time. I'm not going to need to see this again for right now. I will ultimately want to add some images to it. But I'll start by creating my basic HTML, and then this gives me the basic structure. That's the exclamation point tab, and you'll put in your document title here. So your topic is going to be introducing us to you. So it should be something about yourself, your hobbies, things that you like. So you might put in your first name here. And the title should actually be a little different for each page. But this is going to be my generic page that I'm going to use sort of as a template for the others. Then I need to make the two pages link together. So I'm going to do a link, and I'm going to hit tab, and it's going to be styles, and see it finds it right here. All right, so I like to test and make sure these things are working together before I go any further. So I'm going to put in some basic styles over here. And I usually start with the body style. So it's going to be body, and I'm going to put in some just generic styles for the whole page, things that I typically like. So I'm going to do background. I'm going to set a background color, and I'm going to do it to purple. Oh, actually, I kind of like plum. Yeah, we'll do plum. So I'm going to do plum and silver. And then I'm going to do font, family, and I will do one of the ones that's a sans serif, because these are easier to read. So I'll just pick one of the font there. This is the most generic and easy to read one. Arial Helvetica sans serif. Put my semicolon there. And that's enough to get started for me to test things. So now I want to see if these are working together, but I'm not really going to know if this is working until I put a little bit of content in the body. So I'm going to put in my, I want to set things up with divs, and I have some custom ones that I like to use, but I'm just going to start with main. So this is my main, this is a division, and so this is going to hold all of the content for the site. I sometimes use this a little differently, but this is going to have the content, and inside it I'm going to have my, I'm going to have another area here, so I'm going to have my title, and it's just going to be student name, and then I'm going to want to have a nav area. And this is just breaking it logically into parts, so I can put like different colors for each part. And in my nav area, I'm going to have 3 links. So I'm going to do, and I do want them to be next to each other, going across. So I'm going to do A times 3, and that's going to give me 3 links, and they'll line up next to each other. And the first page, while it's going to be named index, I'm going to refer to it as the home page. Now your other 2 pages should have meaningful names, and I'm encouraging you to do things about stuff that you love or your hobbies. And so my 2 hobbies are bicycling, which I will call cycling.html, and this will help search engines operate search engine optimization later. You want to use meaningful names. And so this one's going to be weights.html, and this will be weightlifting. So this is just sort of giving me a layout for all three of my pages. The content will come underneath it. And so in the content, I should have a few different things on it. I should have some H2 tags. So background. I should have some like paragraph tags underneath each one. So I'm going to do paragraph with, this is going to have lorem ipsum. You may not use lorem ipsum, but I'm not going to take the time to write real content here. So paragraph with lorem times 3. I shouldn't have done the open parentheses, that was a typo. P, oh yeah, no, I needed that. I needed P greater than lorem times 3. There we go. And that will give me 3 things of junk text for paragraphs. So that gives me a start. I'm probably going to want an image in here. I'm going to add that in a minute. But this gives me a basic page outline. And then I can play with the styling for it. So there's lots of things I can do with the styling. So at this point, though, it would be a good time to save and test everything because you want to do that frequently. So I'm going to choose Save All. You'll notice that one disappears. That showed that I had unsaved pages. I'm going to head into my Web 105 folder, which I have right on my desktop, into the HTML project. And I'm going to open up the index page. There. Not completely styled, but not bad at all. So now I'm going to sort of minimize that, and I want the main section to have some different styling. So I'm going to set it to a width of 80%. I'm going to set a background to ivory, color dark, slate gray, and the color is your text color and the background is your background color. And I'm going to center it. So by doing this, margin is saying how much room I have, and the first number here is your top and bottom. I'm saying 5 pixels top and bottom, and then by doing auto, this is going to center my box on my page. And then I can put a border around it if I want. So I'm going to do a silver border. This isn't going to look amazing, but it should look okay. So this should be affecting the main section here. All right, since it's not working, and I always leave my errors in so you can see how I solve them because I think that's really important. Because programming is easy when everything works. It shows me that it's working properly with the 80%. And none of this stuff is applying. File, save all. But the original color is applying so that, and see, this is how you refresh to test things. Let's just close this and reopen it. There we go. So for some reason it wasn't refreshing properly. Now there are some other things that I would want to do here. And these go maybe a little beyond what you've gotten in the Linda videos, but there are things that just bug me, but I'm going to keep some really simple styling here. So in the main, I don't like the text touching the wall here, so I'm going to do padding 10px, and then I'm hitting Control S to save. And I'm going to refresh over here and hopefully it'll work. I don't like the way this is working, so I'm going to test this using a different browser. So I'm going to choose Open With. I'm going to choose Chrome. Okay, so so margin is the outside. So we have our interior part, which is our content, and this is typically referred to as the box model. Padding is between the content and the border, and then you have the border, and then you have the margin, which is between the border and the next element or the outside of the page. So this is actually perfectly okay for this level. You could choose to have these go up and down. I'm going to show you a few things that we would typically do to make these a little bit easier to read. So in the nav, I might do nav, and I can set its width and 25%, and this will be the width of the outside container, not the whole page. So it's going to be the width of 25%, and I use percentages because it allows the page to resize, and I'll show you that in a second. So I'm going to set it to a width of 25%, and then I'm going to do margin 5px auto, and that's going to center it on the page. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to come out here, and I'm going to hit refresh. Okay, so that's not wide enough because it's wrapping. So we're going to change that width to being 40%. There we go. Still doesn't look amazing, but it looks okay. And then in here, I'm going to add to these, and it needs to be after here. I want a space and the pipe signal, which is above the enter key with the shift. And I want to put a space both before and after it. And then I'm going to save all. And I'm going to now watch here. And it's not, again, it's not perfectly centered. You don't know enough to do that yet. If I want to center the student name, I can just do that as a H1 text align center. And then let's change the color of that. Color purple. And that's about as far as I'm going to go in styling. Please do not use exactly these settings. I mean, if you want to use a width of 80%, that's fine, but choose different backgrounds and colors. Font family sans serif is ideal. See, now this is really going to bug me. So I could sort of play with this here. There's some easier ways to do this, but we can do this fairly quickly. There we go. And they still don't align perfectly. I would have to mess with this if I was really worried about it. I'm not really worried about it at this level, and I'll show you how to fix it when we get a little further. But one of the reasons that I use percentages, and I want you to see this, is that it changes like that. Okay, so we can do a few other things to make the navigation here a little bit easier. So home, I might have background, so I'm going to actually change that to home, so it says what page we're on. And this is where it's going to save you a lot of time. So I've got this basic structure in here, and I'm going to want to add things to it, but I've created the basic structure, and now I'm going to do a file. I'm going to save all, and then we do look at my files here, and I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste. And it's in the right place there, and I'm going to paste again. Actually, let's do this a different way. make sure I have index 1 selected, or index selected, and file, save as, and I want to call it weights.html. And so index 1, I want to rename, and it's going to become cycling.html. And you'll see that I did this to make it easier for those links to work together. But I'm going to want to go through and edit these so it says what page that we're on. That way it helps us for our navigation. So I'll actually go into each one of these. So now I'm in weights up here. I can close the style sheet. I don't need it anymore. And so I want to change my title to weightlifting. And I want to change my H2 to weightlifting. And it should match whatever the link says. And then I can save this. I'm going to cycling.html, and I'm going to change the title to match the link. And look, I have a typo. Yay! And I've got an extra L in here. I was hoping it would do an autocorrect on it. And I'm a little dyslexic, so that should there we go. Okay, so got the title correct. And I'm going to put it in here as the H2, because this is going to show you that all of our links work. And then if I go out here and refresh this, that has the home page. And if I click on bicycling, you'll see it changes up here. You'll see it changes here. And you'll see these change. So that gives me 3 pages that I can work into. I'm going to save this, stop this video, and then I'm going to show you how to add images to it in the next video.